G'day and welcome to Kenty Blitz, your daily hit of NRL news. Don't forget to subscribe. It means a big difference to us. On YouTube, that's Fanatics TV, and on Spotify and Apple Music, look up Kenty NRL Podcast. You can also buy these Kenty Blitz hats at fanatics.tv. Be the best looking guy at the footy this weekend. All right, let's rip into it. Great article today in the paper, this Sydney Morning Herald from Christian Nicolosi, who talks about Gould's commentary on Jerome Buller on the weekend. If you haven't read the article, do yourself a favour because it's a great article and it's great to see Christian take on the big dogs.
Well, I love a stinking rugby league. We all love a stinking rugby league. And Nicolosi, to his credit, a lot of people are just happy to let it go through the keeper. But on the weekend, now, we've spoken before, Warren. Jerome Buller is managed by Isaac Moses, who is not a friend of the West Tigers. There is a clause in Jerome Buller's contract that needs to be picked up by the end of this month.
May, I think it
by
is.
May, yeah. Yep. So it has to be picked up by May, where he can play 2027 for the Tigers, or if he doesn't pick it up, and it works both ways, the club can pick it up as well. If it doesn't get picked up, then he's a free agent to go next year. Now, obviously, if the club picks it up, they have to pay more money. So he's
900, they're saying,
he's waiting for the club to pick it up. If he picks it up, he gets less money. The club's concern, obviously, is if they pick it up, he might come stay 1 year and then move on anyway, and they've paid a fortune to keep him. So there's a lot of little intrigue in the behind the scenes stuff about why and why not he's done that. But over the weekend, Gould, part of that is also that if he doesn't stay at the Tigers, where's he going to go?
Well, let me tell you what Gus Gould said on the weekend.
You read it in a minute, but the thing is, Canterbury have been mentioned as one of those teams, okay? And particularly given that Isaac Moses last year took Lachlan Galvin to Canterbury, basically delivered him on a platter. So with that in the background, Gould, and over to you, came out with his comment during the game when they played on Sunday.
So Gould said, that's an athlete. Gee whiz, he's going to be a good player. He's just creamy, so fluid, beautiful, like apple pie on a Sunday.
Yeah. Now, what?
A bit creepy or what?
Look, the way you read it.
Yeah, well,
I don't think Gould quite sounded like that, but you started to get hungry halfway through the
I should put on my Dr. Feelgood voice. He's an athlete. Gee whiz, he's a good player.
Anyway, but the part about that, though, is that from a distance certainly falls right in the lap of what the NRL, in their idiot wisdom last year, that rule they brought in, which prevented TV personalities involved in the game who are also involved in clubs making certain comments about players. This is in response to Gould coming out last year saying that Galvin is the best teenager player he's ever seen. And then obviously behind the scenes, that started the campaign to get the kid over to Canterbury, which ultimately happened. And then because of that, everyone blew up about it and said Gould had an unfair advantage. The NRL, for reasons that I can't understand, instead of getting the integrity unit in to investigate to see if Gould actually interfered with his contract.
How could they do that?
Well, they could go through his text messages, they go through his emails. They go through his agent's text messages and his agent's emails, and they go through Galvin's text messages and Galvin's emails.
They got the power to do that?
Yeah, they got the power to do that. They signed that over. The NRL didn't do that. Instead, they came out with this Mickey Mouse rule where officials with commentators with club affiliations.
I'll read it to you, Kenny. It says, clubs have been advised that the definition of tampering will now include certain public and private statements that could be seen as attempts to lure or entice a player to join another club. Okay,
now if him saying that about Galvin is what implemented that rule, if that's what kicked it off, then what he said on the weekend definitely contravenes what they're trying, that rule. He's definitely broken the rule. Okay, so now we wait and see the NRL integrity unit, which is the propaganda unit's what it should be called, whether they actually now going to come out and announce whether any sort of thing, investigation is going to be held against Gould. Nicolosi, to his credit, he texted Gould about it and said, mate, didn't you break the rule here? And Gould sent back a 2-word answer which said, grow up. Okay. And I like the fact he's done that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think basically what's happened is he has dared the NRL to take him on. I think he's put his toe in the water and said, okay, if you've got the guts to take me on, And what are you going to do about it? And the NRL so far, they're sucking their thumbs in there at headquarters. They don't know what to do about
Quivering
it.
in the corner, you think?
Well, they are. They've announced nothing. They've done nothing. It happened on Sunday. We're still waiting. There's been no announcement. The integrity unit haven't said boo. Now, this is all. It just goes to the complete bottom level of bullshit that this NRL continues to feed us all the time.
Well, it's not the first time Gus has had a go at the NRL. Just 2 years ago, he was issued with a $20,000 fine for calling them stupid, right? And the league said, with the fine, public comments considered to be detrimental to the best interest of the game. So it's not the first time he's had a go. I don't know. Did he ever pay that money?
He's at war with the NRL. He's at war with the NRL. When V'landys came in, he was a confidant of V'landys for a period there. And then they've had a falling out, and they basically don't talk anymore.
Do you know what over?
Oh no, I don't know exactly what over. Look, I will say it's very easy to have a blue with Gus. Okay, right. And I don't speak to Gus. I had a blue. My last blue with him was years and years ago, and we just. I don't even say we nodded at each other when we see each other now. But
do you remember that was it about? What was that?
Could be anything.
Yeah, okay.
But the point is. He's broken the rule that the NRL implemented over the summer. You would dare say, at the very least, there should be an NRL investigation into it. Now, I think it's a bullshit rule. I'm just going by the letter of the law at the moment, right? I think it's a bullshit rule and shouldn't be in place.
So you back what Gus has done then?
Well, the issue is he got a player to break his contract, right? He got in his ear. That's what it's designed to stop. That's what he said last year about Galvin. That was a preemptive move there to get it out there, and then behind the scenes they were inducing him to break his contract, which is why they brought in this rule. Now, again, they could have found out without bringing in the rule. They could have just said, show us your emails, show us your text messages, your phone calls, present it all. They've got the power to do it. They could have said the same to Galvin, same to his manager, and they would have seen if there's conversations been going on. If, as we're led to believe, they're as cluey in their investigations as what they tell us. I don't know if they are. I think the integrity unit is there to basically tell everybody it's to give the appearance of integrity in the game rather than true integrity.
Let's be clear that was they alleged that Gould asked Galvin to break his contract.
Well,
right?
that was why it was the suspicion
they never
of
proved
it.
it.
No, they never proved it. No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But there was the suspicion of it, which is why they said, well, we haven't got the balls to go and investigate Gould himself because he'll probably tell them to jump off a cliff. So what they did is they brought in this rule as a way to circumvent that. But now Gould's gone and basically challenged them on it. He said, different language, but the same intent.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are they going to do? What are they going? Well, I'm waiting. We're all waiting in the game. Where's the integrity in the integrity?
Do you think that's what Gus's intention was?
I think he loves teasing them. Yeah, he plays them off a break. Okay, and he's look. I've told you before. He's very, very clever. If you want to understand him, read the Art of War. You know what I mean? Okay, I think I've got no doubt he has come out and wanted to know where it all stood, and I think he did it for fun. I think he just likes rattling in the cage.
Yeah, right.
And they won't find any evidence there. I think there's a very strong chance Buller does end up at Canterbury at some point. But what he's done there and what the NRL, the lack of inaction after all their tough talk last year is just embarrassing for the game. It's embarrassing for the people who call them administrators in head office there.
Well, Gus continued last night. He called on 100% Footy on Channel 9. He called on the game to get rid of the coaches and the referees. He said, our game for the last 3 decades has given too much latitude to referees and too much control of the rules to the coaches. This is what you've been talking about for a long time.
I stood up and cheered. Yeah. I stood up and cheered, and good on him for saying it. I know for a fact, Warren, because I've had coaches over the years tell me that they go into these meetings at the end of the year, they sit down with headquarters and they just play them off a break because what happens, I've said it, you win the comp playing fast, all but one coach wants the game to slow down. The team that won the comp wants the speed of the game to stay. But if you play the game, won the comp playing slow, then you want to speed it up. And that's what happens. And what we're seeing, for example, in the way defence happens and the way all these little shitty little things we see in defence, Okay, we're the disruptors right now. We're talking about disruptors driving everyone nuts. Now that happened because someone came in and said, okay, let's put the kick up, and as the guy's underneath about to jump for the ball, I'm going to run past, and I'm not going to try and catch the ball.
Yep.
I'm just going to throw my arm across his vision,
Yep.
just to sort of make him flinch a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's the old stand by me too for flinching. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And if they drop the ball, then that's good. You get the knock on, then you get 6 more tackles. Now they sat down with the coaches over the summer, and the coaches came away, okay, way to get rid of it, bring in a rule, disruptor rule. Okay, so they brought in this rule. Well, it wasn't a rule as such; it was the interpretation of the rule.
That was last year, wasn't it?
That was over the summer. They've got rid of escorts and all that last year.
Sorry, yeah.
Escorts is when they run you off the ball as you're coming through to try and jump for the ball. But now you're not allowed to do that. Now what they do is they go past and they disrupt your vision, or they disrupt your attempt to catch the ball. Now they're coached to do that. So over the summer, the coaches came in, they come up with an idea to get rid of it. But then Annesley's come out this week and he's tried to calm the fury about it all. And he said, listen, basically it's an obstruction. And he said, an obstruction rule has been in the game since day one, since 1908. Well, why the new rule? If that's the case, just do it. Just penalise the guy. Just say, mate, you obstructed him. He was trying to catch the ball. You came in, you grabbed his arm. That's another one they do. When they go to jump up, they lean across and they'll put their arms above the other guy's arms so you can't get an arm to the ball, catch the ball. Like, if you're doing that and the referee sees it, if the rule is there, why have we gone for a new rule?
Why is it called a disruptor? Is that what you're saying?
Well, but why even have it? Why even? So Gould's right, because coaches are getting involved, and the game, the thickheads in there, they're sitting there and they go, oh, hang on, this is too much. I'm getting a headache. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, you want that new rule? We'll bring in that new rule. And mate, we're going down this track, new rule after new rule after new rule, and the fans are going, what's that for? What's that for? What's that for? And it's giving everyone the shits. If the referee had just gone, mate, you obstructed him, don't do it. But what's happened now, the reason for that is this. Because the first thing the coaches say is they want consistency.
Yep.
I want consistency. Why can't we get consistency? Parramatta did it last week. They didn't get penalised. We did it on the weekend. We got penalised. Why is that? We want consistency. So the NRL tries to come in with these KPIs or on every incident, which that constitutes a penalty. That doesn't. So that way the coaches can tell their players. The coaches are taking the piss. They're not sitting there trying to get clarification and make it clear so they can say, okay, do this and we won't get a penalty. They're trying to figure out, okay, what are the limits of what we can and can't do, so I can push it to the limit to get the advantage for us. Or where's the loophole I can find within that new wording of the law where we can make it advantageous for us. That's what they're doing, and that's what Gould's talking about. Coaches have been doing this for 30 years. It started with holding down the play of the ball. And the coaches say, well, this guy held this guy down. He held him down for 4.2 seconds on Sunday. They didn't get a penalty against him. We held a guy down for 3.8 seconds on Friday. We got a penalty against us. So the referee said, okay, we'll try and get consistency around that now. How do you get consistency around the length of the play of the ball? There's 50 different ways you get tackled, you hit the ground, you get up. But they sat there and they listened to all this rubbish that the referees that the coaches come at them with. And they sit there, they try to appease the coaches, and no idea that they're getting played by the coaches. And Gould sits there at club level and he's seen that. And good on him for saying it. The sad part about that is he is so spot on with it. Most people will look for an ulterior motive. Why did he say it? Why should we not trust him? Okay, when I think he's just been flat out honest. You want to fix the game, this is what you do. Yeah. And that's what they should be doing.
What about the idea that teams are faking head injuries to get HIAs?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They are. It's not hard.
Yeah, I get it, but...
Mate, a few years ago, I shouldn't name the club, but it was South Sydney. Righto?
Yeah. Don't name the coach either.
Anyway, some years back...
You know everyone tries to work it out now, right?
There's a couple of guys called Dogheads at Canterbury who watch the podcast every day. Yeah. And They got a mate who works within the club, and he tells me that they watch and that their big games trying to figure out who I'm talking about. Which is why I can't give too many clues, because I like the fact that the game gets played. But a player got up like this. He got up from a tackle. He got up like this, and the trainer came on and had a look at him, turned him round, patted his head, and walked him off. Just like, come on, come on. And they do that, and the benefit of that is it's always going to be a category 1, where they pass the test because they haven't really been hit on the head. Category two.
Yeah.
Category 2.
Yeah.
And they get a free interchange out of it. He gets 15-minute rest. He's got to be back before the 15 minutes is up, and he comes back on, and he's had a bit of a breather. There's no doubt they're doing it. I wouldn't say every team's doing it. I'd say most of them have probably considered it. Some teams don't get through their interchange anyway. But it's a way to just keep one up your sleeve. That's the great, particularly when you're rolling through your middles. Okay, when you've already got your middles coming onto the field, you wouldn't do it for say an outside back. You've got sitting on the bench to get him on and get him a run. But if you've got middles, we'll just bring him off, give him a HIA. We'll put a fresh middle on. He can go on. He can play for 15 minutes before this guy comes back, and off we go.
What do you think Abdo's thinking about this?
Oh, mate, I think he's practicing his Logie speech. Abdo, I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, well, it's an entertainment. So rugby league will be at the Logie soon.
It will be,
because we're at the entertainment business. So you don't want to make a bad speech when you finally make the stage at the Logie. So.
Very good. To continue on this disruptor thing, Billy Slater in his podcast yesterday asked why the controversy. He said there's a rule against obstruction.
Yeah.
And that should be it, right?
Yeah, and Billy again spot on. And well done. Billy, I love Billy because he's just got that good old-fashioned common sense. He comes from the country, comes from Mount Isa. I remember after he played that first Origin game where he did the chip ahead and all the rest of it, I was about to fly back to Sydney, and the boss rang me up and said, mate, you're not coming back to Sydney? He said, go to Mount Isa, interview Billy's parents. He said, I want to know what sort of people they are. And they're wonderful people.
Who's your boss back then?
Campbell Reid was the boss, yeah. Anyway, so I did that. But Billy's just got good old-fashioned common sense. And he's asked, why not just apply common sense? Well, Billy, you know the answer to that. The problem with common sense is it's not common enough. So, particularly down at headquarters, the ivory tower down there. Look, but he's right. He said it's an obstruction. Basically, he reiterated what Annesley said. Whether Billy said it first and Annesley thought that's a good idea, I don't know, or Annesley said it first and Billy went in after him. But either way. The rule is there. You're obstructing a player. You're preventing him, giving him a fair chance of actually contesting for the ball. The other part he also said was about when players are getting the escorts and all the rest of it. And he said, start working on catching the ball. I tell you, I've never seen a period in the game where the teams are so willing to let the ball bounce.
Just because of the kicks, though, the work on the ball?
Oh, I don't care. The same guy that you kick into the opposition all week is the guy who got to training kicking for you. So go and do some work on it, learn to catch the bloody things. They've got those other things that they took from the NFL.
They still use those?
They still use them.
That's the best halftime
we saw the other day, Dylan Edwards was getting a drone to go up into the air and drop the ball.
Yeah, right.
So it was coming from a height you can't kick to, okay? So there's ways to do it, but the players... They all just want to let the ball bounce now. I don't know why they're doing that, but Billy Slater was spot on. Get the rule out. Get rid of all this disruptive bullshit, which clearly the bunker don't understand. Clearly the officials don't understand. The clubs are far too ahead, and they just say, mate, you interfere with him. That's an obstruction. Boom. It's so easily solved.
Kenny, it's interesting to talk about HIA and players going off and stuff. Did you see what Max King happened on the weekend?
Yeah, loved it. Yeah. Particularly, for those who don't know, Max King got hit by Casey McLean. It was a high tackle. Casey McLean got sin bin. He got suspended for it. And it's later emerged that Max King had a broken jaw. But not only did he play on and played, I think he played another 20 minutes or so it was. I'm not sure exactly how many more
24,
minutes.
I think.
24 minutes. Yeah. But yeah, so he played on with the broken jaw. But most importantly to me, what I really love was he didn't lay down when it happened. And when we see all this other stuff going on where players are now getting just a little bit of a brush on the chin, and they're laying down and they're grimacing and they're rolling around in pain and they're waiting for the referee to pick it up. And we saw, I thought embarrassingly, in the Parramatta West Tigers game where they both got each other and got penalty goals out of it right at the end of the game with what was really incidental contact. It was high. And I've been an advocate for getting tackles down and penalties for high tackles and all that. But if we're going to go down this road and we're going to start staging tackles and we're going to start laying down and we're going to challenge, which is even worse now that they're laying down, they're challenging on it. I think we're going to have to start bringing in some sort of guidelines, whether we look at intent, whether we look at whether there's momentum, those sorts of things.
From the bunker, you mean?
Well, I think we're just going to have to make a decision because it's an embarrassing look for the game. It really is. And the way, there's players that are falling now into arms, literally into arms, and they're getting penalised for it, which I'm not comfortable with. I don't like that about the game. I understand why the rule is there, but it's a bad look for the game. But the bit now where players are actually taking advantage of that rule and laying down and calling challenges because they know that they just felt some sort of pressure on their face. There's clearly some sort of contact. And when you look at it on replay, basically it's a slight brush of the hand. But according to the rule, yes, it's a penalty. Those sorts of things, I just wonder where we're going to go as a game. And if this is allowed to continue, where do we end up?
You blame the players, though, or you blame the game?
Both. Look, I blame the players more than the game. Right. I blame the coaches, actually. I think they've been told to lay down. Yeah. And I think that it's a thing that's come out through training. What generally happens, Warren, someone will do it in a game on a Friday night and everyone's sitting at home watching it and everyone will go, oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to do that. And they talk at training when they do the captain's run or they talk to the coach during the week and the coach will give the go-ahead. Okay, yeah, well, if you feel it, guys, lay down. Well, let's get the penalty. And some of those teams, mate, they need the penalty. But it just goes against the grain of what the game's about for me. We saw in soccer they had to bring in staging penalties because it just got ridiculous players with their theatrical falling and all the rest.
Well, they get a yellow now. If they're seen to have been a pork chop.
Yeah, and look, I'd hate to think we get to the stage where that happens, but I tell you what, I don't know anyone that's going to come out and support what's happening now with players laying down and asking for challenges for at best incidental contact.
Teams get announced this afternoon, but they reckon Leo Thompson's coming back in for Max King, so he'll make his debut for Canterbury, which is a big in for them.
It's a handy replacement.
Yeah. Let's continue. Jake Turbo looking to play this weekend. Geez, he looked nasty. That was a nasty injury. Yeah. But his headgear company have come out and said...
Oh, they got smashed, yeah. So what's happened, poor old Jake spent the entire off-season wearing this headgear because he was led to believe that there were scientific studies to show that headgear, that particular headgear, which looks like a moon, right?
It's like those old popping things. Remember when you used to pop the plastic?
Yeah, it came out 20 years ago and everyone thought it was ridiculous. And then they got rid of it and it's come back. But they came out with these claims that they reduce concussions. Well, so there's been some independent research done. And it's found that they haven't reduced concussions and they can't reduce concussions at all. So poor old Jake's been wearing this headgear thinking it's going to make him better. He is too tough for his own good, though. Jake, if you've seen the photo of what happened to him last week and the fact he's so willing to play this weekend, and probably will, to be fair, you just know what sort of warrior he is. The last thing he needs, though, is to be misled when he's had so many concussions last year and in previous years, to be misled by a headgear company looking to capitalise on his misfortune by coming out and making false claims that their headgear stops concussions when there's no medical evidence whatsoever, no studies whatsoever that can prove that.
Let's talk about a bit of signing news. Tom Duffy has come out and says he wants to stay at the Broncos.
Yeah.
It's interesting with Jonah Pezzett coming there next year. What do they do there?
Well, look, I think they probably have both. Be spoiled for riches. Look, I don't know what they're going to do there because Ezra Mam's got the 6 jersey. Reece Walsh has got the 1 jersey. I don't know. Billy Walters has got to come back somewhere in the team, you would assume.
They're wondering if he'll re-sign because Hunt, they want to re-sign, but they're not sure about Billy Walters.
Look, I don't know. Look, that's Dave Donaghy's problem. He's got to figure that out. But Tom,
good problem to have, though.
Well, it's a problem you want to have.
When you look at other clubs who don't have any 7s.
Oh, look, you poor old Dragons.
I didn't say that, Kenty. I didn't say that.
Anyway, but good on Tom Duffy for backing himself.
Yeah.
Like he had a wow of a game against the Cowboys last week. He played really well. We all know, obviously, that Pez's going there next year. 3 doesn't go into 2, but they're going to have to make something fit. So it'll be interesting. I know the Broncos' first instinct, well, let's have both of them. And let's see if we can make it work first financially, and then they'll see what they can do game-wise. But I don't think either of them will stay in State Cup for too long next season.
You like that when a player backs himself, don't you?
Oh, well, but that's what the game's about. And Duffy's been tremendous the way he's handled that. The way he handled his first game for the Broncos there on the weekend, the way he got through the game, the way he spoke after the game, I just thought, wow, this is a guy he's got it together. He understands what it's all about. You hear about him at training. He just knew what he needed to do. He went out and he was very precise in how he played his game. He stuck to his role. So he looks like a player with a long career ahead of him.
A couple of days ago, there was news that Dragons' Jaydn Su'A would be leaving the Dragons and going to Parramatta. Interesting bit of news from a few journos yesterday were drumming up the story that he's going to leave early. So for any Dragons fan, I can't imagine you'd stomach that considering how badly they've gone. My question to you is, how often does an agent infiltrate the media to push an agenda like that? That agenda doesn't make sense for anybody except the player and the Eels. The Eels have come out and said the contract's a contract with
It actually makes most sense for the agent because the agent would he'll be getting another pay packet. There'll be some sort of payout or some sort of settlement with St. George, I assume. There's some sort of deal with Parramatta. And if he goes now, they can often double dip. You know, that depends on the negotiation of the deal. Look, agents are all over it. Not some agents do like to keep it quiet, but they're very clever at getting the information out that they need to get out. But the other part too, Warren, is players can't help themselves either. I remember I had a big blue with a player once. He walked around the dressing room telling everyone, he was actually a Saints player to be fair, and he walked around telling everyone, mate, I'm out, I'm done, I'm going. And he had the shits with the club.
Mid-season,
told everyone he was going. And one of the players I was talking to later just said to me, oh, mate, he said he's leaving us. And so I wrote the story and he rang up and blew up and we had a big fight on the phone over it. His argument wasn't the story was wrong. His argument was, who told you?
Yeah, right.
That's what he wanted to know. Who told me? And but I said, mate, you were volunteering it in the dressing room. Like you told everyone you were going. He said, yeah, but that's not your business. I said, well, mate, that's rugby league these days. You know, if you leave in a club, mate, that's news. That's what happens. So, we had a bit of a blue over that. But sometimes the player, he'll often be the one that gets it out because he just tells people.
Well, that was a chit chat about Galvin 2 years ago that he was walking around the shed saying he wanted to get out.
Last year?
Yeah. No, the year before, I think.
Okay.
And that's how it came out last year. Last thing for the day is Matt Duffy looks like returning for fullback at South this week with Jai Gray out. What does that say about Latrell Mitchell, do you think?
Well, I might say it's the end of the dream, to be honest. Like the fascinating part about that is he is considered himself a fullback, and we know that there were some really touchy times there at South Sydney when he clearly wasn't the best performing player in the team, and there was calls to move him from fullback to centre because he for various reasons he wasn't fit enough, he wasn't producing enough, his defence wasn't up to speed, that he was in and out of games. And if you remember, Rodney Churchill sort of went way overboard but criticised his performance for fullback and the money he was on. And that was the other part. For what he was providing for the team, he was on too much money because he was on fullback money. But the fact that Bennett is going to look past him now that Jai Gray has injured himself and he's going to go to State Cup and pull out Matt Duffy, who's spent the last, 3 years in the English Super League, who scored, I think he scored 5 tries from his 5 games in the State Cup. So it sounds like he's playing reasonably well. But but
he wasn't even in their top 30.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't at the start of the season. But clearly he's been playing well. But the issue is what happens to Latrell. And he's a player near the end of his career now. He's a player. Players get in the last few seasons, they start to think of their legacy and how they're going to leave the game and what their place is in the game. And unless he pulls his finger out and gets a bit fitter, which is the reason he's not going to fullback, because he's not fit enough. When he went there on the weekend, after Gray got injured in the game, he got put to fullback, and that was basically his trial to say he could do the job. But he was found lacking. He just didn't have the motor to be able to be where he needed to be for the minutes that he needed to do it. So that's why Bennett doesn't want him playing fullback this week. He'll play him in the centres and he'll bring Duffy up. But that's going to impact how he ends his career unless he goes away and starts getting himself fit and somehow forces his way back at fullback. But that will also explain why Jai Gray's been playing fullback now instead of Latrell. And in some ways, if Latrell goes out now as a centre and doesn't win a comp at South Sydney, he won 2 comps at the Roosters, but he didn't win one at South, hasn't won one at South Sydney. It's going to go through as a bit of a like an unfulfilled career, I think, that he didn't quite get to where he had the talent to get to. And that's always disappointing. Like I don't know Latrell that well, but I get on okay with Latrell. And we always have, interesting conversations. Like,
the thing you notice about Latrell is when you watch him live, there's not many players out there on the field who command a presence like he does. I watched him against the Roosters, a few weeks ago, and literally whenever he got the ball, the whole crowd rose. Everybody went to him.
He does, and that's what he does. But the trick is he's not doing it often enough. And if you're playing fullback, you've just got to be so fit. The fullbacks and halfbacks run for more metres than anybody else in the game, and that can vary depending on which team and who the halfback and fullback is. But Latrell doesn't do that. Latrell, he's a walker. He'll often be slow to getting to the breakdown or the try that's been scored, and those sorts of things. And that's just because he hasn't. I don't think he hasn't got the legs anymore. You see, like when Greg Inglis went to South Sydney and went to fullback, he played fullback obviously, but he also played centres and 5'8" at Melbourne. But he got himself super fit to play fullback. He went there for big money, but he respected the job he needed to do there, and he got himself fit. And he was wonderful as a fullback there at South. Latrell's got there, but he hasn't. You talk about that commanding presence. That's what basically got him the one jersey. Not so much his impact and his contribution, but everyone's sort of picked him. And I think for many years he was picked at fullback with people waiting for him to produce rather than him already producing. And it's a tough job, but that's what the big bucks are for, because it is a tough job, and he's going to really struggle. I think. I think his fullback days are just about done now.
Very good, Kenty. Another great show. That's it for us today. Thanks very much. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.